All right, welcome parents. First of all, thank you so much for coming. I am so excited that you all chose to attend today's presentation. There are lots of different family therapy concepts and methods, and I hope that the theory that we discussed today will provide you with a basic understanding of how families develop and also provide you with some practical ways to apply those concepts to your very own family. But before we go any further, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Elizabeth Jacobson, and I am a graduate student at Aurora University. I will graduate in a few short months, and I've had a lot of experience working with families through both various employment and internship opportunities. While I don't claim to be an expert in anything, except maybe drinking coffee and maybe shopping at Target, I have been able to see firsthand the impact of the theory that we will discuss today in multiple families. So I am very excited to share that with you. I think that therapy can be very transformational. Individual therapy is absolutely useful and focuses a lot on ways that a person can manage their emotions, and it also emphasizes that internalization of the various influences in that person's life. Therapy with a family is a little bit different because it is based on the idea that those influences are external and exist within the family. So it's no wonder that when a family comes together, transformation can happen. I think that the power of family therapy is very transformational. So, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and move forward and we'll jump right into Bowen's family systems theory. Murray Bowen is considered a pioneer of family therapy. He was concerned with the multi-generational family system. He was actually a psychiatrist who specialized in schizophrenia. He began his work by studying mentally ill children and their mother. He spent a lot of time studying the connection between those patients and their mothers. And he discovered that at the heart of this connection was anxious attachment. I'm going to say that again. At the heart of all relationships, all connections, is anxious attachment. Bowen even initiated a project where he hospitalized the entire family of a schizophrenic patient. Can you imagine that? This project, although it seemed a little bit outlandish, was incredible, and Bowen discovered that in troubled families, people were emotional prisoners of the way that other people behaved. I'm going to say that again too. People are emotional prisoners of the way that other people behave. Wow. Bowen termed the relationships that were emotional prisons as fused, which is just a fancy word for stuck together. Bowen thought that these fused or stuck together relationships lacked differentiation, which is a fancy word for autonomy or independence. Bowen continued to study families and found that this concept of anxious attachment and these fused relationships really were at the heart of all families, not just psychotic ones. He came to know that all families exist on a continuum of emotional fusion to differentiation. So on this next slide is a very simple continuum. Imagine on the far left side is fusion, and on the far right side is differentiation. Where would your family exist on this continuum? You don't have to answer that question right now, but think about it and discuss it with your partner later. Bowen was clear in that the problem with many families is fusion, and the goal of his family theory is differentiation. So let's look a little bit more at differentiation. A differentiated person will have the ability to think and reflect. They will not just automatically respond to emotional pressures. They will be able to balance both their thoughts and their feelings. Their thinking will be flexible, and of course they're going to feel strong emotions, but they'll be able to exercise some self-control, and they're not just going to agree with everything that you say. A differentiated person will be able to take a stance on issues that are important to them. Now, an undifferentiated person is going to be moved to emotionality. They're typically going to be pretty reactive, and they're going to have trouble maintaining their autonomy. They will likely agree with whatever you say, and they're going to need a lot of acceptance and approval from the people around them. Bowen thought that in order for a family to flourish, listen up, parents, in order for a family to flourish, all members must be differentiated. So in order for a family to flourish, all members must be able to think and reflect. They must be flexible, and they must be able to exercise some self-control. Another important concept of Bowen's theory is the idea of triangles. Before I dive into this concept, think about the most difficult relationship in your life. What does that relationship look like, and who is involved? Is it a partner, a friend, a relative, a child? Hold that thought. Keep that relationship in mind for just a moment. Bowen tells us that a triangle is the smallest stable relationship system. A two-person relationship is pretty unstable because it cannot handle much tension before it must involve a third party. This is both good and bad. It's good in the sense that the tension is spread out, but it's not so good because this creates an odd man out scenario. Okay, now let's return to the relationship that you thought about just a moment ago. That difficult relationship probably involves a third party, maybe a friend, maybe a coworker, maybe a spouse. When two people have problems that they are unable to resolve, one or both parties may turn to someone for sympathy. If that third person doesn't become involved and encourages the two people to resolve their problems, the triangle does not become fixed. But if that's not the case, and that third person does become involved, then the triangle becomes fixed and it becomes part of the relationship. Can you identify a triangle in your own life? For example, in a family that I recently worked with, the husband was upset with the wife because she was always shopping and always spending money. So the husband turned all of his attention to his son, which undermined the son's autonomy and also closed the avenue that was previously open for the husband to relate to his wife, for the husband to communicate with his wife and to continue to develop interest with his wife. In this scenario, the triangle existed between the son, the mother, and the father. The father could not manage the tension between he and his wife, and therefore he pulled the son into that emotional triangle. One disclaimer though, complaining is not wrong. And sometimes these interactions can be pretty harmless, but a triangle can become dangerous when it becomes a distraction and undermines a relationship. Finally, we cannot discuss Bowen's theory without discussing the concept of emotional cutoff. A lack of differentiation in a family can produce a reactive child. As a result, parents may be over-involved or they may be emotionally cut off. People will usually either manage anxiety in one of these two ways. They will become too involved or they will become not involved enough. The greater the fusion, the greater the likelihood of emotional cutoff. The greater the fusion, the higher the likelihood of emotional cutoff. So that's a lot, right? I hope you guys are all still with me. If Bowen were here today, I think that he would want you to know that optimal development occurs when family members are differentiated, when anxiety is low, and when all members are in good emotional contact with their families. The ability to handle stress is a characteristic of a differentiated family. When anxiety exceeds the family's ability to manage it, symptoms may occur, which may lead to the development of behavior disorders. We often carry unfinished business with us. When anxiety presents in your family, when it presented in your biological family when you were younger, what did you do? Did you ignore the conflict? Did you face it head on? Did you withdraw from it? People from undifferentiated families will continue to be undifferentiated in their adult life. If you previously handled anxiety by withdrawing from it when you were younger, then you're probably going to continue to handle anxiety by withdrawing from it in your new family, in your marriage. Bowen was a big advocate of a genogram. A genogram is a simple diagram that will help you visualize relationships and identify conflicts, cutoffs, and triangles. It can be useful because it's going to extend beyond a basic family tree, and it's going to focus on relational patterns. This might be an important first step for your family to identify any unfinished business that you may be carrying into your new family. You can see on the right-hand side of this PowerPoint slide, there's some very basic genogram symbols. So typically a male will be indicated by a square and a female a circle. And then the line that connects the male and the female is a normal, healthy relationship. You can see that a dotted line would indicate an indifferent relationship. Two bolded lines would indicate a relationship that's very close. So genograms can be very helpful. I think that Bowen would encourage everyone to create their own genogram. There are multiple tools online that can help you create one, and I'm also available after this presentation too if you'd like some additional resources on how to help you create your own. So, as we begin to wrap up this presentation, I think Bowen would want everyone to take away the concept of differentiation. If we asked him for a recipe for a flourishing family, I think he would present us with the following ingredients: the management of anxiety, the avoidance of fusion, and the recognition of triangles. If all of those ingredients are combined with differentiation, then the results will hopefully be a family that flourishes. That is it. Thank you so much for attending this presentation. I hope that this presentation on Bowen's family theory offered some practical information about how families function. I'd like to close up the presentation with a quote by Bowen himself. He said, "That which is created in a relationship can also be fixed in a relationship." Thank you so much, guys.